How you doing? I'm very excited to show you guys this video. It's the 4th Design Build show where I interview Mr. David Sellers. Mr. David Sellers is essentially to design build what Chuck Berry is to rock and roll. He brought design build back at a time where for the past 100 years he started practicing it in about 1964. 100 years before then, up until that point, it wasn't happening. I mean, to whatever degree it was, but in terms of how things were taught, how the system was structured, you had architects and you had general contractors. And Mr. Sellers just started building as an architect at a time when it was actually against the AIA's code of ethics to do so. He had the courage and the integrity to see what he saw and then go out and do what he felt was right. And he's a complete inspiration. Some of the stories he tells in the interview are amazing. He talks about working as an assistant engineer on one of Paul Rudolph's, who was the dean of Yale at the time, architecture school, and also the architect for a building at the time. It's an amazing story. He talks about being a guest lecturer, professor at MIT, and what he went through with that. Mr. Sellers actually started the curriculum for design build. Design build is now in over 100 architecture schools, but it's really started with this guy. So hope you enjoy it. Please excuse my daughter. You'll see it was a little bit on the spot interview, but enjoy. Thank you.
So one of the reasons I left Yale is I said, wait a minute, how do you make something really, really beautiful? Other than a beautiful drawing, the school teaches how to make a beautiful drawing. But how do you actually make
Well, it's fine.
and make that beautiful? And that's much more difficult. Because if you don't know how to make it, you know, you can draw the picture of it. You know, and the picture was cool.
Right.
And then go, now I gotta make it. So, right. Now we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And what happens is, I think a lot of people who design things that make a really beautiful drawing, they get in trouble because either one can't be built, or it's way too expensive.
How's that going?
Or in the combination of those two things, you remodel it probably just at the last minute.
Yeah.
Take off this wing, don't do this, don't do the tower, skip the round porch.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you've kind of bastardized the whole thing to fit something, and then the architect, you know, at the end of his life, he sits there and says, well, you know, I'll write a book about how to let a crappy job
Because it just wasn't thought with throughout the whole design process, right?
Mr. David Sellers, and if I keep looking over there, my 1-year-old daughter is walking around. I want to make sure she doesn't get burnt, but it truly is an honor. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it's my belief that design build is going to be, you know, what people think, how people think of, what people think of when buildings are built, and design build went away for about a good 100 years. Mr. Sellers graduated from Yale in 1964 and brought it back, and like now it is very popular. I'm a design builder. I'm not sure if I would be if it wasn't for this guy, so it's really a complete privilege.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's cool about your show is that because you understand it and you do it, you're making it available to people who say, what is design?
Yeah.
What is design build?
Yeah.
and I think by being able to discuss it, you know, I think people are going to realize, oh, this is kind of cool as an alternative.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say, whoa, I'm going to hire a builder, and then I'll hire an architect, and those guys will interface, will get a contract.
Yeah.
I'll agree with it, and then they'll go build it.
Yeah.
And then they'll remodel it because it's too expensive, it doesn't work, and they finally, it isn't quite what they wanted, and they live with it, and oh, God, screw it.
That is my purpose, you know, because the consumer is going to be the one that changes it. And when I started, I'm writing a book now on design build, and when I started writing it, I was like, oh, this is for the architect. Yeah. This is for the contractor.
But then at a certain point, I was like, man, it's never going to change unless, like you just said, unless when somebody goes to build, they know who to go to, right? It's like people have been duped to think of, they don't know, right? So we got, it's like a purpose of mine to get that out there.
And I want to amplify that a bit, Dave. Okay. There's one kind of roadblock to a lot of this, and that's the architectural schools themselves.
Yes.
They're, I think, very slow to kind of evolve into design build.
Yes.
And they because they're teaching a professional degree, and then they have to get an accredited from the National Architectural Accreditation Board, they have to then do all the stuff that says an architect is separate. That even though it's less and less kind of distinct, that's the way they teach it.
Right.
And problem with the teaching of that, and that's why I evolved a little bit out of when I came up to Vermont. I realized it. Are those your things, Audrey?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So
let me finish, because I was saying that the architectural schools are going to be very slow to change. So that the really talented, exciting, dynamic students, hey, I want to be an architect, go to a school without knowing that the school isn't going to teach them the full spectrum what it can be, to be an architect.
Yeah.
And so there's a when you say in 10 years, I think that it's not going to be the schools that evolve it. It's going to be the so-called clients.
Right.
The people who want to build it, and they're going to see something. They're going to have dinner at some friend's house. And say, wow, how did that happen? And they said, well, who was your architect? Well, the architect and was a design builder. He did everything.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what would be the cool parts about it? And he said, well, in the evolution of design build, a lot of things are invented in the process. And that's for me, what I do. There's a Goethe line, which I thought was pretty cool, which was,
Who's he?
he was a German philosopher.
Okay.
So Goethe had this idea that, and it's a really, I love this little quote. He says, if you can't make a decision almost instantly, don't waste your time trying to do it. You basically don't have enough information. So work your way around it to do the easy ones.
Yeah.
So I'm at a project in Santa Monica right now, and there's a really complicated stairway that's going up in the structure. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to the people who are, this is a design build I'm doing in Santa Monica from Vermont.
Yeah.
So this is like really a great test.
Yeah.
So, and I'm emailing constantly, talking over the phone, and I'm going out the next week. But I said, don't do the stairway. You don't have enough information. Get the roof.
It's under construction right now.
It's under construction.
Yeah, got it.
Get the roof on. Finish up the dormer.
Yeah.
Do the entrance. Leave the stairway alone, because whatever you do, whenever you design the stairway, it's going to be a much better final solution by designing it in place where you're standing there.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really interesting about drawings, as your eye moves around in a space, every millisecond is a new drawing.
Yeah, pictures, right? Yeah, yeah.
If I'm looking at a piece of paper, even though I do SketchUp or what it is, it's so hard to kind of really feel it. And by walking in it, design build is like doing full-scale sculpture inside sculpture, because it's an art form. It's an art.
Yeah.
Design build isn't a business in a way. It's an art form.
Yeah. That's why I love interviewing you. I think I could literally talk to you for like days on end. I just want to keep you talking, because like the things you say, every conversation I've ever had with you, the things you say are so they're just so valuable, and I just want to keep you talking. So, what is the design build philosophy? Like, I heard you talk about, the school's not going to change it. First, it needs to be the public, and then the schools will probably come around, right? Because everybody's going to be like, "Hey, I need to know design build." That's what people want, right?
Yeah.
But what is the mentality of design build? Like, how is that different than being a general contractor or just being as an architect as it's known today?
Okay, the mentality of the design builder is like either center or right or left wing in a hockey game, or playing forward in basketball. When you've gotten past a known play and you're winging it, it's open field running. It's like after the quarterback makes the pass and the guy picks it up, now he's kind of running around through the field, making it up as he goes. And I think that's the, in a sense, the skill that a design builder would have to have. And that skill doesn't do anything unless you have self-confidence. You have to have the confidence that you can go out into an area without knowing what you're going to do in advance, and have the confidence that it's going to be great.
Yeah.
You can solve that problem.
Yeah.
And I think part of that comes from looking around at as you grow up and seeing things that seem to be fabulous. Why does that fireplace work? You take a close look at it.
Yeah.
It's not an image of things. It's how it's made that makes sense.
Right. Right. What are the components of a great building?
Well, I would think, to me, a great building has to have several components to be. And let's go back to the beginning. A great building would be a building that the people treasure, the people love it, and they treasure it, and it's protected. So I think that what makes really a terrific building, what makes a great building, there's several things it has to do. One, it has to last. It has to be made in such a way that it's not going to fall over.
Yeah.
And the person who makes it has to understand how you make something, so there's an economy of it. And when you look at some of the great stone buildings, watch.
Come over here.
It's really clear when you see a good stone building that the people who made it understood how you stack stones on top of each other, and that is so important.
You guys got the same eyes.
Come here. So it has. So in terms of it has to be stable. It has to look stable. When you look at it, you look at it, wow, that is. So that's one. Another part of it has to work. It has to do something. It has to have a function that satisfies, the people who are going to be involved in it. And I think a good building, like the Pantheon in Rome, is a good example. That building is so solid and so powerful. Design build project. Almost 2,000 years ago. But it was so well done that when it has so many different functions. It's been a church, it's been a hospital, it's been a convent, it's been a library, it's been a museum.
Oh, wow.
It's been all those things.
I didn't know that.
And it's functioned beautifully in every one of them.
Yeah.
So rather than tear it down, we now have to build a library. Let's get rid of that thing and build a library.
Oh, right.
This thing is good enough. Let's make the library out of this place. That's why it was a mistake to tear down, Penn Station in New York, the great big steel thing, because that could have been anything, over time. It was such a magnificent structure.
Yeah.
So and to continue on, what makes it great, if in that whole kind of combination of things, it has to fit in its neighborhood. It has to, even the great cathedrals, which were built 1,000 years ago, like Chartres Cathedral. When it was built, all the buildings were 1 or 2 stories. There was this huge building in the middle. It still fit.
Yeah.
It still sensed like that was part of the community.
Yeah.
So it has to have, and that's a complicated thing, but that comes from being part of the community as you're making it. And then the last and most important thing, it has to be friggin' beautiful. So that last part of it is what makes it, that's the guarantee the building's gonna last. It's way past the lifetime of the design builder or the architect or the owner.
Yeah.
All those people standing by, this is my building, this is really great. But way past that.
So, but why can't an architect do that who's just thinking with design? Or why can't a general contractor do that who's thinking with, he knows how to build, he knows what it's going to cost? Like, why do you need all those things together?
Well, because it's not going to work. It won't last. I mean, because when it's left into the public arena, the public kind of consciousness, it's so easy for some people to say, that old post office is junk. Let's get rid of it. You know, and so everyone say, should we get rid of it? Everyone raise your hands. Okay, boom, let's get rid of it.
Gotcha.
You know, but if it's a magnificent old cool post office made out of whatever it is, someone says, no, you can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
You lay down in front of the bulldozers.
Yeah.
But now you're past the original. I did it.
Yeah.
You know, you're past the original. I built it.
Yeah.
Past that individual human ownership. Now the ownership is in the public arena. So it becomes part of the public kind of consciousness that people said that's a civil society is kind of in a way made up of those gestures that people have made over time. And that, you know, we as Americans, we flock to Europe and, you know, take pictures like crazy.
Yeah.
Jillions of pictures. Wow, look how cool it is. I love those. We come back. Do we do anything that relates at all to what they just saw?
Yeah.
No, because there's a certain fear, that a stupid fear, I think, that people have that it's going to be rejected or people won't like it or, you know, it's too out of the ordinary and, you know, everyone knows the right way to do it, so we'll just do it. And, you know, 999% of the buildings in America, in my opinion, are a waste of the resource. Eventually, they're going to be torn down. And that's so unsustainable. And only in the last 30, 40 years that people realized that we can't continue taking the resources of the planet and degrading it.
Right.
And they take the embodied human energy, the physical resource, put it all together, and, you know, the banks, they'll give you a 20-year mortgage, and then, you know, move out, and some that's so good. Well, that's a tear down.
Yeah.
The tear down. You know,
Yeah.
there aren't any tear downs in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much valuable stuff as a part of it, and there are some really positive strides in America. I've seen some really great buildings where the facade, beautifully constructed facade, is kept and they're bracing it, and they just add
I've
on
seen a lot
to
of
them.
that too, yeah.
You know, and I think that's such a positive sign.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can continue to disregard that value, you know, as we go on. So then, now you take, well, who's going to do it? You know, who has the vision? You know, and in a way, there isn't any clear vision because the architect oftentimes is too trained to do codes and contracts and working drawings and all that kind of stuff. So when the architect is hired, like for example, a school board says, well, let's hire an architect. So you hire an architect and you interview the architects. And so somebody knows, so let's get Bill and Jim or Judy or Bob, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You interview them all and they all show pictures of what they've done.
Yeah.
And they say, well, what's your fee going to be? What's my fee? And they hire somebody.
Yeah.
There's no discussion whatsoever of how it's going to be built. The assumption is that you, as the architect, are hired in order to get a set of instructions to someone who's going to make it.
Right.
There's the problem. I mean, how many?
What should they be doing?
Well, how many of us have gone at Christmas? You open the package, and there's a model airplane,
Yeah.
but all it is the parts. You know, it's not that. Oh, I thought there's a picture of a model. Oh, it's a model airplane. Open up, and it's just a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
And then there's a big sheet of paper that shows you how to assemble the parts.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, you said, who did this? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And you never finished building the airplane.
Yep. I know what you mean.
So in a sense, if an architect
Oh, I see.
is not,
That's a great analogy.
yeah, so the architect is not building the building,
Yeah.
then all he's doing is giving a set of instructions.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to tell you how to say make that,
Yeah.
and if I don't know how to make it,
Yeah.
but you're going to make it
Yeah.
based on my instructions,
Yeah.
you're going to be so pissed off.
I went to school for architecture, and when I was done, that's the thing I was struck with. Like, I was aware I was telling people what to build, how to build it, right? But I had never built anything in my life. I was like, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And you told me a story before that I think relates where you were an intern at Yale
Yeah.
for the architect Rudolph.
Oh, Rudolph, yeah.
The dean at the time. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, that was an amazing story.
Yeah.
I had a summer
That is a baby.
after one of my architecture years, and said, well, there's two cool buildings going up right in New Haven. The Aero Saarinen new colleges, in Paul Rudolph's parking garage. I said, holy God, this is great. So I went over to the contractor for Aerosteernen's building. And it was the dorms were like an 8 or 10 story building, and it was a concrete wall, but there were stones embedded in the wall, kind of like Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin stuff, and they were pouring it in.
Okay.
And so I got a job removing formwork. And there were, scaffolding was there were 4 different parallel people removing formwork. And it was so inefficient. So I went back to the sculpture department where I was working with Bob Engman.
Yeah.
So I invented a tool that we could, and we made the tool. We
Yeah.
could take, so all of a sudden our team, you know, we had this stuff almost totally down. So there's 4 teams doing it, removing the formwork on the scaffolding, you know, so. So our team had, you know, our stuff was almost at the ground floor, you know, and the other 3 were way up there. Boss comes to me and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I don't know, it's a student here." He says, "You're fired."
The contractor?
Yeah, I want you out of here right now. Here's the, I've been watching, here's the money for today. Please leave now. And I said, "What?" I said, "You really, if the owner comes by and sees that one group is really fast and others are slow, it's going to make us look stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and we have a fixed contract here. I don't care how long it takes to get those guys down. But if, you know, and all the other guys that are still up there are looking down at you and you're ruining their job, said, you know, this is nuts. We're not going to have this." So I walked over to the parking garage where Paul Rudolph was the art designer. It was a big concrete building. So I said, "Hey, can I get a job with you guys?"
Okay.
And so the site engineer said, "Oh yeah, sure. You're going to be."
You literally just got fired because you had come up with an idea that would improve the efficiency.
You're right.
Wow. Okay.
But I had a nail apron on. I was really dirty from working.
Yeah.
So the guy said, he said, you know, I said to my student over, he said, "Okay, we'll take it. You're going to be my assistant." So I was now next because the other guy quit.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm the assistant engineer. I said, "What's my job?" He says, "Your job is several things. One, you get the coffee and donuts in the mornings. Okay, just go around, make sure you get every coffee, donuts.
Yeah.
2 is I sit with my transit, and you're way at the other end holding the stick.
Yeah.
And you put your finger up and down the thing till I tell you stop, and then I read it.
Yeah.
Okay, then you carry the transit to next to Wood County, and then you know
Repeat. Yeah.
Well, you know, so that's how we build a building. So okay, cool. And I get it. Said, and then he said to me, he said, "But you get a chance to see everything happening in the building.
Yeah.
You know, more than anyone else. You get to see every lesson. So this would be fabulous." So I was on it for about 3 or 4 weeks, and suddenly he says, "Hey, the architect's coming. Now here's the dean of the school, Paul Rudolph."
Yeah.
So he comes in with a coat and tie and a vest, and roll of drawings with insistent rolling drawings out. So we went to the top of by now it's like 5 stories of concrete.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a big, plywood thing there. We're all sitting around the plywood, and there was the foreman for the concrete, for the steel, for the electric, all the foremen were there. And now the architects can explain stuff. I said, "Okay, this is cool. This is totally cool."
Wow.
So then I realized I needed to get closer. So I said, "Do you want black coffee? You want cream and sugar? What kind of donut do you want?" So I'm going around. Meanwhile, I'm listening. I'm asking everybody what they want. So the donut truck was right quick. Run down, get all this stuff. And I'm passing really slowly. I'm listening to this stuff. So I was watching this thing in the architect's drawings, and right behind the architect, the head concrete contractor is standing right behind the guy with his fingers like this, doing
While he's talking.
while he's talking, but he's behind him.
Yeah. Just
and,
mocking him.
and everyone is going like this, and they're all kind of laughing. So the guy leaves.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he leaves, everyone falls over laughing. And I said, "What the heck was that? It's crazy. I can't believe this."
That's the guy in charge of the project.
He's the architect.
Right.
He's the guy. He's the dean of the school. He's the number 1 guy out there. I said, "What?
Yeah.
What is this? I'm going to be an architect." And I said 2 things. One is, I don't want to ever be on a construction site and have the workers do that to me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why did he do this?" Because he didn't know how to build a building. And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Look at what he has us doing. Look at these drawings. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
You know, had he made a half-inch bigger over here,
Wow.
he could have got the reinforcements. Instead, he's got to stack the reinforcing overlapping. You got to stack it and weld it. It costs another $1 jillion. He said it was just. He said, why don't they teach architects how to make something?
Yeah.
He's telling us how to make something. It was stupid. We did it because we were paid to do it. Fine, you know. But for us to respect you for that, we'll respect the idea we got a job,
Yeah.
and we'll do the best job we can based on what you give us. You know, but you gave us a set of instructions, which was crap.
Yeah. That's an amazing story, and I think you know, if you look at history, the architect used to design the scaffolding. Like I thought of it when you're talking about, hey, I had this better way to build these forms.
Yeah.
Like that used to be the architect's, you know, responsibility. Like, how do you build it most efficiently? And you were already thinking with that, like just naturally, I think, right? It just kind of, this kind of came to you, and then, but it's like that's a good, like this is how far removed we are, right?
Totally removed.
Like that story you just told, like the guy's not even, like he's so far from even thinking about the best way to make this form so it's cost efficient, right?
Yeah.
He's just like, he's to the point where he's getting mocked by the guys who are building it,
Exactly.
who are like, you know, who are firing you for coming up with the idea, right?
I know.
And it's like this circuit, that's where we're at, right?
Yeah.
And that was 1960, right?
I mean, so the first job,
Yeah.
you know, you'd think, wow, here's a new idea. Everyone come down this scaffolding.
Yeah.
We can do this even better.
Yeah. I just
No,
want
it's
to
a-
say, like, this is what you're changing, you know?
Yeah.
That's why every time I talk to you, I'm so appreciative, because, like, it's powerful. It's like gonna improve the world, you know? It's like, because I think buildings still get done, right?
Yeah.
And pretty cool buildings still get done, but it's still, like, inefficient, right? It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like and it's like money's got to be kind of not so important.
Yeah, exactly. So
factor,
you know,
right?
so when you look at these buildings, like I went and saw the Frank Gehry's Disney Hall. The Disney Hall is in L.A.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a here's the picture. Make it look like this. He also says, here's how you make it.
Yeah.
You know, and so the making of it is evident in the piece itself. So a really good Sherlock Holmes kind of designer, someone who's a historian, is really will look at a fabulous building and will understand. You could deactivate it, deconstruct it in your mind, and figure how it was made, and go back and reconstruct it.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the hand-hewn kind of structures were built in the colonial times in America, and people look at that and they say, "Oh, save the hand-hewn beam. Look at the chisel marks. Those are really cool."
Yeah.
You know, so
She's feeding you.
thank you. So and you look at that and you say, "Wow, those are cool." So and I said, "What do you do now that's equivalent of that?"
Yeah.
So and somebody said, "Well, why don't you leave?" So I started building when we had hammers and nails. I said, "Okay, you're pounding two boards together, and you're putting it." I said, "You take a 16-penny nail. At the last knock, overhit it, and you leave a rosette dent of the hammer in the piece of wood." So then you said, "Well, that's like the chisel mark." So then I said, "Well, let's line those things up." So when you can see the bam, 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 and that you could see the skill of the person hammering that they were able to make that last hit just right. And so I do similar things with, you know, if I'm attaching, rather than having an invisible joint, I said let's have the joint visible. And we made a project in California. We had two huge slabs of wood that were like 6 feet high and 10 feet long and 3 inches thick. And then I want to make the wainscoting on a stairway. They're going to butt together. You know, so so I'm talking to the guys there, and they said, "Well, we can make that a perfect joint." I said, "If you make a perfect joint, and all you see is this big slab of wood, but you don't know that that's plywood or not. You have no idea what it is.
Right. Right.
So let's make a dovetail joint
Oh, neat.
with really fat
Oh, cool.
joints, and then when they join in,
Yeah.
take it into the 45.
Yeah.
So then as you walk around, you say, "Wow, look how they made
I love
that."
that. Yeah.
It is
Oh, that's
really
neat.
cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that once you know how to make something, you know, these things become a part of your design kind of palette in a way. And that's not really on a drawing.
Yeah.
That's when you're on site, and you look when someone arrives with, you know, for example, another thing. I wanted wide-board flooring on this one project, and we're in California. So, but there was a guy who had a company called Arborica, and he was an expert on big trees, you know, tree stumps and old growth. So I said to him, "Can I want some wide-board flooring?" And he said, "How wide?" So, "Can you do 20 inches?" And he said, "Well, let me go back. I'll talk to you." So he calls me back and says, "Okay, I've got something for you." He said, "It's cool. What are we gonna get?" He said, "Well, how's 52 inches wide for your main board?
Wow.
32 feet long."
Wow.
So I'm saying, how the heck did you do that? He said, because you asked me what I wanted. He said, there was a thing called the Humboldt River when they did the redwoods, and there's a thing called the Humboldt Crossing, and they would tip down these 8-foot diameter redwood trees, 2 of them, put a railroad track across there, and when they cut down all the redwood trees, they took the rails out, and then they took this giant, and they just left these trees there for 100 years. So he bought one of the trees, and he decided to slice it up. So the widest board was 52 inches, and the next one was 48.
Wow.
The narrowest one was 36.
Wow.
So we did the whole floor of the main room out of one tree.
Wow.
And I said, "What?" And that changed the design of an experience of the entire place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so rather than butting these together, in order to really understand the size of these things, I had to butt them together with a different species. So that there's a tree called holly, which is almost white. You know, so we had a white band between these things, and it was just totally spectacular.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really, really cool.
I think I'd like to all your friends here to enjoy your time as well. And we started talking about, earlier we talked about education and how the universities, it's like they do it how they do it. It's a very entrenched how they do it, and that's going to be tough to change. But I do think it needs to change. And it's a goal of mine, and I know you are one of the things I want to recognize you for. I think starting the original design build curriculum. There's several now. Yale has one which you helped start, but it's a semester, and you can't. It's reduced to that, right? As opposed to being everything, and then design as a facet of that. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in that and what you feel does need to change there?
Yeah, I started the design build program at Goddard College, and that's all we did is make buildings for the college. Mm-hmm. And the students who nobody came there because they wanted to learn architecture. They were students there. Oh, here's a program, let's do that.
Yeah.
And we evolved making like 7 or 8 buildings for the school, which was really fun.
Right. But,
and the students really understood how to make it.
And it makes sense, right? To start with building. If you want to tell people what to build, shouldn't you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden you're there and you're in the process. There's a bulldozer arriving, people picking up lumber, hauling it somewhere, and it's.
So the problem is that they have, what is the problem? Like.
Part of the problem is, I think the typical schools are stuck with an accreditation process, and there's a national organization that forces you to do certain kinds of things. And I think the curriculum, especially the schools which are in big cities, like New York, Boston, and so on, they have architects who are in an urban practice, and it's very hard to get faculty that have any knowledge of this. So, that's why I think it's going to come from the general public, and it's going to come from examples.
Yeah, people who are doing it.
People
right?
are doing
figured it out.
And they figured it out. And then that's going to, then I think when the students are going to come back and say, wait a minute, look at the cool stuff that these guys are doing. Let's bring them in as a guest faculty And I came in as a guest faculty at MIT in a couple of places. And when I was at MIT, there was a there was kind of a protest, you know, and some of the faculty wanted to challenge me. So we had a meeting in the big auditorium, and I was sitting on a table. I didn't realize this was happening, but I was sitting at a table, and there was the head of the school at another table, and there were people asking questions. And I was threatening to them. I was saying, I'm really saying this isn't good enough, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and so the faculty was there saying, no, you on the wrong track. And I said, Dennis and Dave, I didn't know I was challenging those guys. I said, I'm just offering an idea
Yeah.
that I think has real merit.
Yeah.
You know, you guys could do it.
Yeah.
A handful of those MIT people came back up to Vermont. They're still here.
Okay.
You know, and
They got it.
They got it.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to. I think you're right. It's going to evolve, and it may come fast. You know, I think once there's a change in consciousness,
Yeah.
you know,
That reality takes hold, right?
it almost flips like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when people are going to see it, there's another choice. Let's go for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. You know, you're a complete inspiration, and you know, thank you for what you've done. I just really want to thank you. Thank you for like being honest, teaching what you saw, and like taking the criticism, taking the attacks, and you know, guys like me and others here are really going to carry that torch, and it's gonna happen thanks to you. And you know, you're still doing it. not talking about you like you're not still doing it, but I just feel like you're really gonna. I just want to acknowledge you for like changing things and being like standing up. It takes courage, man. It takes courage when that's not the thing that everybody's doing.
Yeah,
To stand up and say, hey, this is the way it should be done. This is a better way to do it.
It's true. You know, here's another part of it I want to add in before we close off. Two things. One is I'm enjoying talking to you, so let's do it again.
All right. I'd love to.
We can do it on Skype or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's another thing that's a part of it, and it has to do with your with courage, you know, and confidence. If as a designer you have the confidence to kind of see something that's like once you've done schools and hospitals and churches and stuff, you have a better idea of what should be on that corner than a typical developer, the planning commission.
Sure.
And here's an example. I thought we needed a skating rink for kids hockey.
Yeah.
And the local hockey club said, yeah, we got some cheap land out in some field somewhere. So I became a developer as well as a design builder.
Oh, cool.
I said, well, okay, we got a nonprofit, we got the land donated, and we started building the rink.
Oh, awesome.
And I think at some levels, the design builder will be more of not just making it, but he'll be an active participant in the future.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like for me, a design build is about being accountable and being responsible for a project.
Yeah.
And when you talk about a developer, isn't that what the developer, they're really responsible for everything, right?
Yeah.
And who better than a design builder who can think with it all, who can think with the design and how it's going to be built and what have you. So I totally agree with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do more.
All right.
Okay, Dave, good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for bringing your family.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, thank you for thank you.